trucking, got my chips cashed in, keep trucking, like the doodah man, together, more or less in line.
Hey, I'm back. I am back. It's Thursday. Last Thursday of the month crept right up on me. I didn't even realize it on Tuesday, but it's the last Thursday. So here I am giving you an update of what's been crack-a-lackin' here at the GVQ quarter. If you're new here, this happens once a month on the last Thursday of the month. I will tell you a little bit about what's been going on here, both on the homeschool side and the homestead side. So why not? Why not? You can find the show notes for today at homesteadsandhomeschools.com/GVQ07. Lots of stuff's been going on since the last update at the end of February. I think we knew about the whole COVID thing back then. It was we were aware of it, unaware of what the fallout would look like. But here we are. So I'll give you a little bit of thoughts on that. A little bit of thoughts. I'm sure you're hearing it from all over the place, but so I won't go into too much detail. But let's get started with the homesteading stuff. The COVID thing, it has shut down lots of stuff, lots of all the activities and things. So there's a lot more time to get the things done that we need getting done. And so kind of came right at the right time because I was able to get everything in the garden right when it needed to go. And it is pretty well established at this point. Finally, we started our tomatoes and peppers inside and got them moved out to the garden. Such a problem here because the ground is so hard. The tomato cages don't work. They go like 6 inches in the ground and then you hit clay. And you can't really get the cage into the clay. So when the tomato grows, it gets too heavy and knocks the cage over. So in the past, I have cut small saplings and staked them up that way and run things across, created a giant cage out of wood. And that works, but that's a little bit of effort. This year, we are going to try to stake up some hog fence and kind of tie them, interweave the tomatoes into that, and hopefully that will help things kind of stay upright. Gotta figure out how to hold them up. The other thing we're trying with the tomatoes and peppers, we got them in a little bit early. I say a little bit early, really looking at the forecast, when we put them in, there was no real sign of any kind of frost. It was not a cold spring. We had a couple nights in February, but that was about it. So we decided to put them in. We also decided to use like a black landscaping fabric to put down on the ground, and we cut holes in it and we put the tomatoes in there. So that was something that I've done before up in New England. It keeps weeds down, but it also keeps the ground warmer for the tomatoes and the peppers. I'm a little concerned down here that, we might have to take it up in the warmer months, that black fabric won't absorb so much heat that it will fry all the roots on the tomatoes and peppers. So we'll see what happens there. I've yet to make that decision yet, but it is down the pike. What else? We finally got our corn in. Planted corn for the last few years. A couple of years ago, we planted a black Aztec or a blue Aztec or something like that. It's a sweet corn, but it wasn't that sweet. It was much more starchy than it was your standard sweet corn. So we went and we've planted some Silver King or some Silver Queen last year, and it came out pretty well. But trying again this year, trying an open pollinated heirloom variety. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully, it will be a bit sweeter and it'll do the trick. I'd really love to find an open pollinated corn that fits the bill. We have some open pollinated popcorn that we've taken to using, but an actual sweet corn that you can freeze, eat off the cob would be nice. If anybody has any suggestions as to an open pollinated variety of corn that will fit that, be happy to listen. So just shoot me an email at homesteadsandhomeschools@gmail.com. And our onions are killing it, getting big, and it's really quite interesting to see them grow. We're starting to pull some here and there, and no farmers markets or anything. So not sure what we'll do with them all. Maybe give them away, maybe sell them on Craigslist, maybe who knows? We have frozen some in the past, and that seemed to work all right, for soups and stuff, but it doesn't had trouble really kind of using them in stir fries and other things where I'm trying to caramelize them a bit. We'll see what happens there. Might just make a whole bunch of hot dog relish. I will be the only one eating that. It'll be years to come. But one of the issues with storing the onions, the red onions will store a bit longer, but the yellow onions, they're more of a Vidalia onion, so they're sweeter and they're lacking the sulfur content that helps kind of preserve them. Yeah, they break down kind of quick. Shelf life is not quite as long as your standard yellow onion. So I was going to order some more Cornish cross, some more broilers, and I hesitated on that, and I think might go do that when I get done recording here. But the date got pushed out to April. I think was the ship date on all of them. Ship date on turkeys was also mid-April, which I'm used to. I usually go to Murray McMurray and I put the order in and they come when they're ready, and they're usually ready fairly quickly. This time I used Ideal. I don't know if it's the COVID thing slowing things down, or if that's just how they do. They get an order and then they hatch your birds specific to your order. But the turkeys aren't going to ship until mid-April. So we'll be getting them both at the same time. I was trying to hopefully stagger it a little bit, because that would be nice to not have a bunch of baby birds all at the same time. But it doesn't look like that is going to happen. So we'll have a bunch of birds all at the same time. Plan is to put the turkeys out with the goats and the Great Pyrenees in a tractor of sorts, and then put the meat birds in another tractor that we have already set up. Hopefully we'll have some more chickens in the freezer, and would love to develop a sustainable flock. We've raised turkeys before and they're always delicious. We'll try. We'll see. And gotta get to put a new pasture in. Always fun things, putting new pasture in, putting new posts in, new fence in. It's expensive and it's time consuming. I guess you got to do it. We need to figure out how to separate our goats. The does and the bucks, they got to get separated, because the bucks tend to give the milk a goaty flavor, a bucky flavor. I don't know what it is. They kind of make it taste nasty. We're going to try to avoid that. So we'll put them in a different pasture, and I think it may end up going in there with a horse, because we're getting into the glue business. So we'll put the fence up there and see how that goes. But that is another thing that the COVID has allowed me to pursue. I think that's really pretty much it there on that end of things. Getting into the homeschool side. Homeschool, because so many people out there that COVID has affected them drastically, just in the sense of having to have their kids home all day, and they don't get that break. They aren't used to having kids at home during the day, except for 2 days on the weekend, and one of those days they're usually doing some sort of activity. And so now the kids are home, and that's a big change for us homeschoolers. It's not really that big of a change. You might have a few co-op type activities that are now canceled, but by and large, you're home with your kids anyway, so it's not that big of a difference. We've moved on to one of the units. We're almost done this year, but one of our units with my son is a independent study, and he has chosen to do survival skills. So he's having fun with that. We're looking up some things and doing some things and trying to plan when he can go sleep in the woods for the night by himself. I don't think he'll make it. I think it's maybe half an hour past dark and he'll be in. But hey, I remember doing that as a kid, and it's always fun to do. So trying to wrap it into a school aspect. Little ones are coming along as always. My youngest is like 3.5. He is home because he would go to preschool 2 days a week. Now he's home, and it adds a whole different level to things. He is one of those kids that is super high energy that you have to have an eye on at all times. He will go out in the backyard to play in the backyard, and when you turn back around, he has removed himself from the backyard. He's not the safest. So my wife and I were in the garden one time doing stuff in the garden, and he was out with us, and he just walks away, and he'll go out in the woods. He'll go put himself in a car and shut the doors in the car. So you got to lock the car doors now. There's just no telling where he will end up or where he will go. So having to keep an eye on him while doing everything else has been a little bit of a trick. It's going, and hopefully in another year or so we'll be over this, where we can kind of do things on our own and be a little safer, and know that locking myself in a hot car is not a good idea, that wandering off into the woods is not quite okay just yet. But we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully we will get there. I do think we will get there. Just might be later than we all hope. With that said, it kind of makes juggling, getting everything done, a little bit trickier. But it can happen, and it does happen. So, there's that. So I think we may switch things up a little bit in terms of curriculums for next year. I think we'll keep our older two with moving beyond the page. You can find an affiliate link to that in the show notes. And I think our younger, we will no longer give moving beyond the page, but I think we're going to try to develop something kind of on our own based on different texts that we have, different things that we've used in the past, to kind of tailor something to fit our younger daughter specifically. We've run into lots of kind of issues there. It can be kind of difficult sometimes. She knows an answer, but will refuse to give it, and not give it, but will give you the wrong answer repeatedly over and over again. I'm not sure if it's like a control thing or it's what it is. I think we're kind of figuring out that, she learned that, if she doesn't want to do things, if she doesn't want to do something, her way of not doing it is pretending not to know how to do it. I've seen this kind of talked about before, that kids that have been through foster care and adoption, this is kind of like a coping mechanism almost, that gives them control over the situation, where, you ask them to read a word, and they can read the word today. And then, 2 hours from now, when it comes time to read the same word, they can't do it. And it's not so much that they can't do it as they won't do it. And instead of saying, what the word is, they'll insert letters that don't belong, or they'll make sounds that are inappropriate within the word. And, it's a game. It's a game that kind of gives control to the child. And it makes things very difficult. It makes things real difficult, because it's one of those where you really have to try to step back and remember that, that's this child's coping mechanism. And it's as frustrating as it is to cut it some slack. I'll admit that's not always the way that it works, but you gotta try. So hopefully next year we will be able to come up with something that allows her to feel a little more in control, a little more kind of come through some of these things. Again, who knows how that will all play out. If you guys are here and you're kind of new, and you're, a homeschooler type now because you're forced into it, I really encourage you to stick with it. And if you know people that are public schooled that are now having to school their kids at home, love on it, man. Encourage it. Keep it going. A lot of schools are closed till end of April, mid-April. There's talk of even ending some school years early. This is a great time for people to get out there and kind of encourage those folks to stick with homeschooling. Help them. Give them help where they need it. I know schools are putting out curriculum in places, information in places, but there are plenty of schools that are not doing this because they're not allowed to because of those wonderful state regulations that exist out there. And we've seen those state regulations affect everything from respirator production to face mask production to allowing doctors to hand out COVID tests, administer these tests. We've seen it with the medicine that is out there, and testing that and giving that and allowing people to sign up to try it. What else have you got to lose sometimes? If you're thinking you're on death's door, there's a medicine that might help you. Why not? But government gets in the way of that. We're seeing it all over the place, and hopefully that can be one of the big takeaways. But sadly, I don't think it will be. I think it will be, hooray! Look at government. They gave us these free checks in the mail. I get more money. Hooray! And the thinking kind of stops there. There's no concept, no thought process beyond I have free money. Not where did the money come from? Not where did this $2 trillion come from? Not how did it get made? How did it get created? Where did it come from? Just I have money in my pocket. So share some of these things. Share some of these things that you see. Some of the failings of government. I think this episode has been ripe with them. Share them with your friends. But I guess that's all for me this month. Let me know how you guys are doing out there. If anybody's got stuff going on that they COVID-related stuff, homestead-related stuff. I think most of you guys up north probably get about time to start at least work on the ground a little bit, getting some of your seedlings in trays if you haven't already. That's all for today. Remember, find the show notes at homesteadsandhomeschools.com/GVQ07. Find the Discord server, get yourself in there. Go to Patreon, patreon.com/libertyhippie, and help me out there. Leave a review on iTunes. Share it. Hit me up on Twitter at HS and HSPod. And remember to get out there, sow the seeds of liberty. We can all reap sheaves of freedom together.
I'm gonna ride a hustler's dream. I'm gonna ride a hustler's dream. I'm gonna ride a hustler's dream.